Hello, everyone. Welcome to Good Film Hunting, a podcast about an average couple who are on the hunt for some good movies. In today's world, we are consuming more media than ever, perhaps more passively than ever. But we believe that by documenting and discussing the media we intake, how and what we intake will change for the better. It is important that we don't just become another consumer, but a participant, seeking to engage with the media we consume, so that we can see how our view of the world affects how we perceive it, and how it affects how we perceive the world. In this podcast, we are not only on the hunt for some good movies, but on the hunt for a good discussion. So, lean in, participate, and enjoy. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Good Film Hunting. I'm glad you could join us this evening or morning or wherever you are at. James Scott here, and besides me is my lovely wife.
Wow.
Introduce yourself to the audience.
This is Savannah Scott.
Yeah.
We share the same last name.
Shock.
I know.
Funny how that works
Crazy.
sometimes. I mean, not everyone does. Not every married couple does share a last name.
That's actually true. It's kind of normal these days to not share the last name.
It's true. So yeah, as you probably know, today we are talking about Groundhog Day. And just to quickly review the general format of the episode, I'll start by listing a series of facts to Savannah, hopefully facts that she hasn't heard before about the movie, just to kind of see her reaction to that. And then we'll go into our general spoiler-free thoughts and history with the movie. Then we'll move into our very heavy spoiler section where we rate the movie based on our rating system, which we'll go more into later, which will give us each our own individual overall rating. And then we'll discuss whether we would recommend it or not, and we'll, move into the world and find a new movie, I guess. You ready for some facts, Savannah?
I am ready for some facts, yeah.
So this one was fun. In fact, I've got the Wikipedia page open for reference. This one was interesting. Very interesting. So we're going to play a guessing game to start. You're going to guess most of the facts. What year was Groundhog Day released?
I'm going to guess 1992.
Very close. It's 1993.
Oh, wow, I was close.
Want to guess what day it was released?
Groundhog Day.
Close, but not quite.
Oh, Valentine's Day.
No, it was the 4th of February. So very close.
So sometime in February.
Yeah. It was close enough. As close as you get to Groundhog Day.
Is Groundhog Day February 4th?
No, it's the second. They emphasized it in the movie.
Sorry.
Second. So it was distributed by Columbia Pictures. It has a runtime of 101 minutes. It was written by Danny Rubin. I am not familiar with anything else he's done. It doesn't look like he's done a lot as far as writing goes. It was directed by Harold Ramis, or something like that. I think you're supposed to roll the R because it's Italian. So I apologize, all you who are probably cringing at that. He was born November 21st, 1944, and died February 24th, 2014. So not too long ago. He's best known for directing Ghostbusters 1 and 2. He also did National Lampoon's Vacation.
Oh. Not that movie.
Not that. I haven't seen it.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation?
No, this is just Lampoon's Vacation. I didn't find anything about Christmas. Maybe that was someone else.
No. Is there National Lampoon?
I think there's just a vacation, and I think there's I have no idea.
Okay.
So as you know, it stars Bill Murray. It also stars Andy McDowell and Chris Elliott. And the one guy who we'd seen before that we were like, where have we seen this guy before? The Hey Phil guy. His name is Stephen Tobolsky. And guess what movie we saw him from? You would not guess it.
I have no idea.
We saw him in Memento. He was Sammy Jenkins. He was the guy that Lenny was like talking about as having like a case. Remember like in the black and white scenes, like he was talking about like a case he was studying about the guy who couldn't remember certain things before he realized that was himself.
Oh, the old guy. Like the guy who was married, right?
Yeah, yeah.
When was Memento released?
2000. I think it was 2000.
Interesting. So, was he... yeah, I would never have guessed that. He was very different in Memento.
Very different character.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. I didn't see anything else that he'd been in that we'd seen. Also, so here's a fun guess for you. So the movie takes place in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Can you guess where the majority of it was filmed?
In that place in Pennsylvania?
No, most of it was filmed in Woodstock, Illinois.
Oh. Yeah, the town kind of gives Midwestern vibes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's interesting.
So the budget for this one on Wikipedia was it says it's listed between 14.6 million to 30 million, which is a pretty big gap.
Yeah.
It had a box office of 105 million, making it one of the highest grossing movies of 1993. As most people know, this is a very iconic movie. In fact, it was the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress selected it along with several other films. They decided to preserve it for the National Film Registry, recognizing it for being particularly distinct and culturally significant for the United States.
That's
There's a few other
interesting.
movies that fall into that category. But apparently in 2016, Groundhog Day was adapted into a musical, and it inspired a 2019 video game sequel, Groundhog Day, Like Father, Like Son.
Wow. That's interesting.
And we're not through most of the facts.
Oh.
No, sorry, there's one big fact. So apparently, there was a lot of drama with this particular movie between the director, Harold, and Bill Murray, because apparently they both had different ideas of how they wanted to approach the story. The director, Harold Ramis, wanted to direct it from a more comedy side, whereas Bill Murray, to my surprise, wanted to approach it from a much more philosophical point of view. And so there was a lot of tension and actual drama on set because of that, and a lot of tension in filming, which is very difficult because of that.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that the director and actor actually had collaborated several times before, like on Ghostbusters and I think some other movie beforehand.
Okay.
But because the process for this particular movie was so tense, they did not talk to each other ever again until the director just before he died, which is interesting.
That's really sad.
I know. But I just thought that was very interesting. This movie was very successful and it got lots of positive reviews. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that they ended up, there was so much drama about it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Who would have thought?
I would not have thought. So yeah, those are my facts for you, Savannah. Now it's time to go on to our general thoughts and opinions and history with the movie. Once again, as spoiler-free as possible. So, what is your history and your general thoughts with this movie?
I don't really have any history with this movie. I don't think I'd ever really heard of it
Okay.
until you mentioned it. I mean, I'm sure I have heard of it, but I didn't know anything about the fact that it was a rom-com, which was very pleasing to me because I love a good 90s rom-com. Probably one of my favorite movie genres, honestly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely know that it has set a lot of standards in storytelling, which is interesting that it was the first of its kind as far as the repeated days, and then grumpy, salty person ends up becoming,
Yeah, like the Ebenezer Scrooge
Ebenezer
story.
Scrooge
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
story. But yeah, I don't really have much of a history with it, but I thought it was generally good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed
Like
it?
I said, I love a rom-com. I love a 90s rom-com. My only complaint is that Tom Hanks did not play the main character. And that's a pretty big complaint,
There's a pretty
which
big
we can go
complaint.
into later.
Okay.
But
Okay. Good to know. Um, so yeah, this is kind of one of those things. I feel like it's kind of up there with Monk, the TV series Monk and Psych, and a couple other just like 1990 shows. Not that Psych is or Monk are from the 1990s, but like same kind of vibe about them, I guess. That my relatives and my mom in particular watched a lot and really liked. So I was familiar with it to an extent, but obviously I wasn't allowed to watch it as a kid for a couple different reasons. I didn't really know, like, I mean, I went into it not really knowing what to expect in the sense of like, is it actually good, or has just everyone told me it's good, and like we'll find out, and I'll be like, ooh, that was okay. But I mean, much to my surprise, I enjoyed it very much and thought it was very fun.
And this was your first rom com.
My first rom. I don't know if it's my first rom com,
Your
but
first 90s rom com?
90s rom com. So yeah, now we are going to move into our rating system where we will rate the movie based on 4 categories on a scale of 1 to 5. The first category is entertainment. Then there's overall production quality, writing, and content. So we'll start once again with entertainment. Savannah, on a scale of 1 to 5 for Groundhog Day, what would you give it for entertainment and why?
I would give it a 5.
Okay.
I thought it was fun and entertaining for sure. It was not boring. I feel like the pace of the story was really good, and it moved along nicely and kept me engaged. I thought it was just fun. It was a fun story. It was definitely moving in some ways too. Like I feel like we really felt for the main character Phil.
That's the name of the groundhog too, right?
Yes, the groundhog's name is Phil also. The main character, Phil, we felt for him, even though I didn't love his actor. I mean, I didn't like not love his actor, but again, I would have been happier if it was Tom Hanks, and I would have felt more for him if he was Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks bias.
Yes, but yeah, it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I thought there was a good amount of romance. Kept things interesting. It was spicy. It was.
Even though it was, well, we'll talk about that more later.
Even though it was no, yeah, I would give it a 5.
You give it a 5?
Not very deep thoughts about that for some reason, but yes, 5.
Okay. I would probably give it a 5 too. Enjoyed it from beginning to end. I was never bored. I think the beginning scared me a little bit in the sense of like it felt like it might have too easily been a cliche. Like there are lots of tropes in the movie that are very cliche, right? But the beginning, like, oh no, this guy is such a grouch and he's so mean to everyone. And we know he's going to be a nicer person by the end. But obviously, it's the journey that gets us there that could be interesting. But there wasn't like, there was just certain elements that weren't like quite fitting together. So I'm like, oh no, is this going to be kind of like a boring reiteration of that? Even though I know it's going to be like a repeated day kind of thing. I thought right off the bat, Bill Murray, I'd never seen him in anything before. I enjoyed him in this. I think he caught my attention quickly as the weatherman. Yeah, and I think maybe because I don't quite have a Tom Hanks bias, I enjoyed him a lot in this. Yeah, I don't know if I really have any deep thoughts about the movie as far as entertainment goes. Yeah, I think the pacing was good. So I guess for entertainment, I want to, I guess comedic beats kind of fall into this as well as writing. I thought it was just funny all the way through. There were a lot of moments I really thought was funny. And yeah, I think that was just very well done. And I guess I'll just leave it at that and we'll go into more of it later, but I would give it a 5.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job, even though it was the same exact day repeating over and over again. They did a good job at varying it.
Yeah, like there was never, and even what they did like on repeat, it was kind of like an anticipation of like, ooh, I wonder like what's gonna happen this time, or knew what the joke was going to be because like the guy would Phil would respond to something in a way that wasn't great, and he realized he didn't, and then the scene would literally just start over again.
I know.
And you knew he was going to respond differently, and
I loved that. That was really funny.
it was awesome when like it happened twice though, and like and then you have to go back that second time.
Yeah. Another part where he's like when they're building the snowman, and he's just like, I love kids so much. And that part was so hilarious. I love that part.
That was fun. Okay. So far, we're on the same page. Okay, now we'll go into production quality, where we talk about cinematography, acting, casting choices, lighting, music, etc. Savannah, what would you give it on a scale of 1 to 5 for quality, production quality?
I think I would give it a 4
Okay.
to 5. I thought it was good. I thought... Did we talk about casting and production quality?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought the casting was pretty good. Like I said, again, I don't love... What's his name?
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray. He just... Call me shallow. He just isn't that attractive. He's not Tom Hanks. Like, just thinking about Tom Hanks in this role would have been so good.
It's true.
So good.
I mean, maybe it wasn't that he was the most... I mean, he wasn't necessarily supposed to be the most attractive.
No, but, like,
guy.
I don't know. He was just so, like, in comparison to Rita, like, age-wise, too, I felt like almost, like, their age difference seemed kind of dramatic.
Didn't it?
Not too dramatic, but, like,
I
a
think
little
Bill
bit.
Murray just looked older. I don't know if
Maybe.
he wasn't.
He was very haggard because of his stress, no doubt. You know, what with playing the same day over and over again and arguing with the director, both of those things. No, I thought he wasn't terrible. I did find myself endeared to him towards the end. But yeah, I thought the acting was really good. I thought the script was pretty good. I thought there were a couple somewhat cringy special effects from what I recall. Not special effects, but like there were a couple scenes that were kind of like, okay, this is kind of old.
Yeah.
But I mean, what do you expect?
That's true.
So yeah, I would give it a 4.5 or a 5. Probably 5.
Okay.
For its time, I thought it was like good. It was very of its time. It was good.
Okay. Oh, for me, quality would probably fall in 3.
Wow.
I think everything it did well, and that's all I can really say. The editing was good. That probably would give it a bit more of a 4. The acting was good, which would definitely lean it more towards a 4.
Then what else is there?
It's just the music wasn't... Nothing about the music stood out. Nothing about the cinematography stood out. Nothing about the... I mean, granted, it's supposed to be the real world, so it's not like the costumes and the set design was supposed to stand out to me.
Rita's hair.
Very of its time.
Very voluptuous. Very 80s.
And I think part of it's just because it's kind of an older movie, too, I guess, that kind of restraints the technical limitations. So part of that, like, it's not really the movie's fault, but, I mean, there are other movies that came out about that time that still definitely push those boundaries. But that's not what this movie was trying to do, and I'm not, like, complaining that it's a 3. It just lands there. Like, I mean, it's good. Nothing about it in production is bad. It's just, I don't feel like it necessarily did anything that particularly stood out to me. I was like, oh, that was particularly well done as far as the production quality side of things go. Once again, the acting was very good, and the editing was pretty good. So that would definitely lean it more towards 4. But other than that, like, it just is what it was. And I thought it was good. Nothing bad, nothing offensive. Yeah, acting, I guess since that was the better part in my mind, I think everyone did a good job. There were lots of quirky and endearing characters. Yeah, like I had mentioned before, I liked Bill Murray. something I forgot to mention towards the beginning. Apparently, Bill Murray, after this movie in particular, took a more dramatic, or has taken a lot more dramatic roles. Apparently, he's done a lot of collaboration with Wes Anderson. Like, he's kind of like the Michael Caine of Wes Anderson now, which is interesting.
Oh, is he in the recent one?
I don't know. The Wonderful Life of Henry Sugar?
No, Asteroid City.
I don't know. I forgot to look that up. Yeah, I mean, I thought he fit the role very well. I thought that everyone else, for the most part, I wasn't really familiar with. Editing, like I said, was definitely very good. As we talked about in entertainment, I thought that how they, especially for comedic beats, the fact that, so Phil's whole goal is to try and woo Rita, his producer, into, ultimately having a scandal with him.
Which is actually kind of depressing, honestly, if you think about it.
But the fact that there were so many beats around that, and it was him just figuring out different strategies to get her closer to him every single day. And that we'd more or less get the same scene over and over again, but like we knew what was coming, which would make it funny, and then like he'd mess something up, which would make it funny. Or like how, like you mentioned with the snowman, like it was a totally drastically different approach because he could do that. Like he had an unlimited amount of days for all he knew that he could do this. So why not try something wild, because there would be no consequences for the next day. So yeah, I thought all that was good. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about this a lot more in writing, as that's our probably favorite category. My favorite category, at least. But yeah, I would give it 3. A solid 3. It's not a genuine complaint. That's just where I think it lands.
Okay. Fair.
Okay. So now we're going into writing. Savannah, what is this movie for you when it comes to writing?
I think I'd give it another 5.
Wow.
No. Well, yeah, what is there to not give it a 5 for?
I'm curious to know.
Great story. No, I'm a sucker for grumpy man eventually becomes ungrumpy for the woman that he loves. That's how our story was.
It's true.
You were the grumpy man.
Wait, I was the grumpy man?
Yeah.
Oh.
Was I the grumpy man?
Oh, when you say our story, you're talking about us. Oh.
What else would I be talking about?
I don't know, like just some general outlook.
Oh, the story of humanity. No, I meant our individual story. That's how all humans are. No, our story. The grumpy man becomes ungrumpy for the woman he loves. Right. That's the premise of You've Got Mail, which you also haven't seen, which maybe should be the next on our list.
Or maybe.
But I thought, I don't know, there was just a lot of really, kind of like what we talked about in the previous category, like there were just a lot of really funny moments. It was funny to see Phil doing crazy things.
Yeah.
Because he could. It was almost like, what would I do in that situation? It made one think. I don't know if I would, do some of the things he did.
Drive on the railroad
tracks. Dress up like whatever he was dressed up as to go to the movie theater. Cowboy to go to the movie theater.
And he bought the car and...
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I would say... I might have a couple complaints about the writing, so maybe not a 5. But towards the end, so if we're thinking about it from our perspective, seeing him trying different things every day, it would make sense if I just feel like Rita fell too head over heels with him in the last day.
Yeah.
I felt like, so she came from not really knowing him at all in the morning to sleeping with him that night, which we all know is not an uncommon scenario, I guess, in the world of people. But I just feel like it made sense to us seeing him changing.
Yeah.
And if they had a relationship that was growing over time, that would make sense. But just her going from not knowing him at all really that morning, right? To literally sleeping with him and being in love with him at the end of the day. it was just kind of far-fetched.
Mm-hmm.
It made sense that he would love her because, you know, he spent multiple days hanging out with her.
Spent for who knows how long with
Yeah.
her.
But it just seemed kind of far-fetched. I see what they were going with, and I feel like, you know, that's kind of how they had to wrap it up because it would have been unrealistic to have her be like, you know what, Phil, you seem like a great guy. Let's get to know each other. Then have, you know, however many other days spent getting to know each other. And then, but I just feel like it moved really fast.
Yeah.
Towards the end.
Yeah.
When she was with him. Which I'm not complaining about. I don't think that was a bad thing. It definitely made sense. But I could see from a technical standpoint why that wouldn't be, you know. Maybe Phil was just so amazing. Maybe he could just lure any woman to his bedroom, being the amazing man that he is.
Maybe.
Like
the first time we were introduced to that concept with, was it Nancy, the name of the girl?
Mm-hmm.
When he like just walks up to her randomly and asks a bunch of questions, and she's very off put, and then he walks away, and then we, you know, starts the next day. He walks up to her like he knows her because he has all the information, but clearly she does not know him whatsoever.
But she like thinks he's amazing, which is another funny and far-fetched thing because like, I don't know, is that just how it is? Because I don't have any experience in that area, but like, maybe some like oldish, moderate-looking old man comes up to you, older man, and like knows all about you and like claims to have gone to high school with you, and then 10 minutes later you're in his room kissing him.
10 minutes later, it's like the end of the day.
Whatever.
Hours.
10 hours later. Sorry.
I mean, if it's a whole day spent together and like you're some long-term acquaintance and
Maybe,
he has like
actually.
romantic,
That does make
quote
sense.
unquote romantic feelings towards you because he knows you, and granted, who knows how many times he's like for Phil, like how many days has he worked on mastering this,
Yeah.
finding out all her tics, the things that make her respond positively.
Yeah, I guess so. That makes sense. So, I mean, I don't know. I think I would still give this movie a 5.
Okay. I would give it a 4. It's good, but like you were saying, the ending is kind of sloppy.
Like, it makes sense to have a sloppy ending in a way because, like, we've seen Phil, generic man name, put in all the work that he did. And so, like, we're like, oh, he deserves a quick wrap up.
Yeah. I think, like, I mean, there was the emotional satisfaction of, like, oh, like, I feel for him. Like, I'm glad he has a happy ending. I'm glad everything worked out. I'm glad he got Rita. I'm glad he went through this character arc.
I'm glad specifically that he finally got to live another day that wasn't the same exact day.
Yeah, and like the conclusion like he came to, like he genuinely loved Rita then versus just wanting to essentially use her. That was sweet and endearing. But like the whole setup of the party and the fact that he, I guess, was doing these acts of good repeatedly day in and day out. Like maybe he had some like vast plan he's orchestrating to bring this party together so that people would
But,
like
how would that have
coincidentally.
worked if it was the same exact day?
I don't know. Like, I mean, the party was never mentioned beforehand, so it was very out of the blue. I just wish there had been a little more foresight to the party, maybe, because it was very out of the blue, and like the fact that everyone coincidentally comes up and like compliments every good thing he's done that day, which, like, is how many good things can a single guy do in a day like that? Like, that's just
Maybe
that's
he's been
very far-fetched.
practicing doing those good things really fast.
I guess so. But yeah, it was just very far-fetched, and it did kind of feel like they expected you, in a sense, to feel like it had been longer than it had. So the ending definitely lost points for me there, because I think there could have been a better way to go about it, maybe. So I think like the limitations that it has with being a rom-com is that he has to get to know Rita a certain amount of day and earn her affection. But there's only so much of that is realistic based on who are shown Rita's character to be in particular, and how much work Phil has to put in to earn her affection. I feel like I would have been more satisfied at the end if he had not necessarily fallen into a somewhat romantic relationship with her so much as he had like earned her good affection and he had changed as a person, and then he got another day to like genuinely try and be a better person, and it kind of ends there with like a new hope.
Yeah, like if the party happened and like she's like, ooh, her interest is piqued or
Yeah,
whatever. She like
yeah.
goes to bed that night in her own room thinking
Yeah.
about him, and then the next day like things,
Yeah, and then we get like, I mean, maybe it will still end. We don't really know how it ends, but like now we have hope, and it's like good. But I think because it was trying to cram in everything there, there was only so much of it that was realistic. But once again, like, because it was a rom-com, that also like provided a lot of funny moments. Obviously, he's trying to woo her. It also created a lot of dilemmas because like he would at times earn her affection, but she was going to forget him by the next day. So that was really sad. And you felt his plight there. So there was a lot of dilemma that I think they actually handled very well in the writing, especially towards the beginning. It was fun to kind of see how Phil more or less essentially abused the fact that he could live, like, or he repeated the same day, like he could do whatever and have no consequences. So like the fact that he ate a bunch of junk food one time, or like he stole a car, or that he rode down the railroad tracks, and eventually there's an interesting part where like we don't know how long he's been living like this, where he decides to kill himself
in multiple different ways.
Well, he does it the one time, then realizes, oh no, I'm still here, and then he goes to, and then he does it many different ways, which was kind of depressing and dark, but somewhat funny too. And that also brings up like an interesting question. The movie didn't explore, but like an interesting question of morality. Like, just because you don't have consequences doesn't mean is doing the wrong thing okay? I mean, granted, Phil makes the decision in the end to do what we consider the right thing, but that was for the sake of Rita. And I think another issue I had was that
Well, there was the little side note in the story of him like genuinely caring about that old homeless man and like taking care of him and feeding him and like trying to make him not die every day and like trying to give him CPR, but like genuinely like loving him, it seemed like, and like wanting to make sure he didn't die and trying to figure out how to keep him
That's
from
true.
dying.
That didn't come into play with the story or Rita's relationship with him. That was a very touching moment, actually. Yeah, I think that offers it some redeeming aspect, because I think without that it definitely would have come across as
Him just trying to get
yeah,
rid
like
of
is he really a better person? But yeah, like it made me feel everything that it wanted me to feel. I felt satisfied. I was glad Phil came out the other end a better person. Like I believed it. I believed that he was a better person. Not only, I mean, if only for the sake, like, I'm not living every single day the same. But yeah, I would give it a 4. It was good, excellent in a lot of ways, but there is some sloppiness that kind of made it not as good as it could have been, for sure. But once again, the comedy was very good. The whole Ned Ryers? What was his name?
I don't remember. Phil? Yeah,
That was I enjoyed that, how Phil would toy with how to get the guy away from him, whether it was one just flat out punching him in the face or like being really affectionate towards him.
that was funny. Are you doing anything later? That was so creepy.
I know. Okay. So unless you have any other comments there, we'll go to content. And this is where we discuss the overall more negative content, like language crassness, sexual content, and kind of weigh it against the story and the rest of the positive elements. So, Savannah, what would you give it on a 1 to 5 in content?
Well, this movie is definitely a 90s PG.
Yeah.
I would not recommend this movie for children.
No.
I would probably... I feel like 13 or 14-year-old me would have watched this.
Yeah.
Would have been allowed to watch this. But, like, I would say probably older young kids. Like, definitely not, like, 10-year-old. Only because, okay, so there's a little bit of violence. Not violence, but just, like, some dark moments. Like, them
Yeah.
trying to take a bath with a toaster.
Oh,
Like, that's
yeah.
a little dark. A couple, attempted suicides. I mean, not attempted.
Oh, no, they were
successful suicides. Which were funny, but, like, also kind of, like, that's also kind of somewhat
Dark humor.
dark humor. And then there was language-wise, I'm becoming desensitized to language, or there wasn't really any, because I don't remember any. Yeah, but, like, nothing bad. There was a little bit of sexuality. Some immodesty. There was some innuendos. There's a makeout session that we see.
Yeah.
Nothing super explicit. There's no, like, implied, like, it's implied that they're sleeping together and that they slept together, but, like, there's no, like, build up to that, really. It just kind of goes. There's that one scene, though, where Phil's kind of, like, being scandalous with Rita, and, like, when she's in his apartment.
Oh, yeah, where he's trying to
get her to come to bed with him.
And she's, like, kind of like, no,
Yeah.
no. And then she realizes that he's using her.
Yeah. So nothing that's shown, but a couple things that are implied. And then there is the kissing session, which is a little long. Not super long, but there's that. And it was kind of, supposed to be comedic, kind of, but, like, there's that. So I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a yawn. I wouldn't let my young children watch it, but I wouldn't say it's, like, super offensive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's unclean.
Yeah.
I'd rate it 3.
Okay. I would give it. I'm leaning towards 4.
Of course you are.
Of course I am. I'm sorry. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think the quote-unquote worst part, I think the worst part was Phil's motivations to try and use Rita for his own benefit. And the one girl, Nancy, and presumably other.
Well, that one girl who was wearing, like, that maid
Yeah,
costume.
like I was saying, presumably other women too. So that's the heaviest part, but that's Phil's character. And I guess the story is kind of motivated by that, which is questionable. Which I could see it bringing it down to 3 in some ways. But, like, so yeah, I mean, that's the biggest reason I wouldn't let younger kids watch it.
Just, like, I wouldn't want anyone thinking that that's, like, an acceptable way to have a relationship. Like,
Yeah.
even if it all turns out fine in the end, you shouldn't pursue someone solely based on your desire to sleep with them.
No, not at all. And I think the redeeming quality that Phil had was by the end, it was more about falling in love with Rita than actually. So it's not like the message it was promoting towards the end was the same message that Phil as a character had towards the beginning. And there were some comedic / dark / weird things, but they were in line with the fact that it's a story and this guy is kind of a selfish jerk and he can do whatever he wants and abuses it. So I don't feel like anything was out of place in that regard. So I think I'd give it a 4, but yeah, not for young kids, just because of what we mentioned. Young teens, maybe preteens could enjoy it.
Like, I feel like this is probably cleaner than some of the movies I watched when I was, like I said, 13, 14. I would say 13, 14 is probably a decent age range.
Okay. I mean, I would probably be fine with, like, 12 even, maybe.
12. So such a big gap. No, yeah, maybe probably around that age.
Yeah.
Nothing too bad. Nothing too sketchy.
Okay.
There's, like, worse things in Downton Abbey, probably.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, this is probably the one we disagreed on the most. What?
5.
You had a 5 and a 5
And a
and a
5.
5
and a 3.
So that gives you.
I'm just gonna give this movie 5.
You're just gonna give it a 5?
Slap a big old 5 on. No. 4.5.
4.5. Okay, makes sense. So I had a 5 and a 3 and a 4 and a 4. So that gives it a 4. For me, I give it a 4. Sounds about right. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I thought it was good.
If I could give it a 4.75, I would.
I mean, you could.
It's true.
But yeah, like I stand by all my ratings. I feel not as torn between them as I did with like Elvis, which I still feel torn about.
Like I said, my biggest complaint is that Tom Hanks did not play the main character.
How sad. Poor Bill. Poor Bill.
I know. He's just not as good.
We'll have to watch Ghostbusters one day. See if we like him in that. Or will you be like, ah, man, I wish Tom Hanks was in here.
I would.
Do you wish Tom Hanks was Elvis?
Honestly, Tom Hanks is kind of my favorite actor.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know what it is. Like, I just have such an affinity for him.
Okay.
I just came to that conclusion. Like, I think about him and, like, You've Got Mail and stuff, and I'm like, aw, Tom Hanks. He's so good. Which is funny, because, like, when I first saw him, I was like, ooh, who's this guy? He's not very attractive or cool. And then, like, I got to know him, and I'm like, oh.
You got to know him?
I got to know him, and I'm like, Tom Hanks. He's so nice.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have to ask you from now on. Like, we're going to have to start some sort of Tom Hanks thing where he has to replace certain characters in movies, and I have to ask you from now on, what's the one character you wish he could replace?
That would be Bill Murray.
Bill Murray.
He would replace him.
Do you know what he'd replace in Elvis?
Wait,
he is in Elvis.
I did not like him in Elvis as that character, as we discussed.
Wait, would you rather have him be?
I would have liked him to have been Elvis.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't have, actually. No, I think Tom Hanks is a good character or good actor.
Who should he have been in?
Older love interest.
Who should he have been in Barbie?
Definitely the CEO of Mattel.
Oh, so you'd rather him than Will Ferrell?
Will Ferrell, I only really love him in Elf.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll have to continue this. I'm curious.
I don't know. Sorry, no, he should have been Ken. He should have been all the Kens.
No, you can't take that.
I know.
That would have been creepy. Tom Hanks is all the Kens, but like I'm imagining like a Mr. Rogers kind of Ken.
Ew.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
I'm proud of you. I hope you know that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for chiming in. We hope you are inspired to have some more conversation, either around this film or just the movies you watch in general. Let us know what you thought of this movie in the comments, because at the moment we're only posting this on YouTube. And let us know what your thoughts were on our ratings. So with that, good night.
Good night.